Yep, this meeting is being recorded. Okay, welcome everyone to another reading of Lord Mayher. I believe we're up to page, what page are we on? We're at the bottom of 2150. Okay. Eugene, why don't you start us off, and then Rosalie, you can go next, okay?
On Sunday, 22nd September, Baba asked the women, who was it who said, unless you lose yourself, you cannot find yourself? Elizabeth replied, Christ. What does it mean? Baba asked. One woman replied, to conquer desire. Another replied, to annihilate the lower self. Elizabeth answered, to quote the words of the saint, let not my will be done, but thine. Baba nodded in approval and stated that Elizabeth was the nearest to being correct. He explained in detail. It means three things in one. First, love God so much that you forget yourself. Second, sacrifice your carnal desires for the soul. And third, complete resignation to God's will. And when you love too much, you do forget yourself. Now, how do you do that practically? Love for other things like men, women, cars, dogs, etc., comes spontaneously. It is no gift, but spontaneity. It is natural. Loving God comes by practice and by process to a certain point. But loving God most is a gift. To love Baba, you need to think of Baba. If you think of Baba, you do not think of yourself. The more you think of Baba, the less you think of yourself. So, to love God so much that you forget yourself means that you think of God so much that you can no longer think of yourself. By thinking continually, you become what you think of deeply. The mind makes one become what one thinks of deeply. If you think of Baba all the time, you cannot think of yourself. If you don't think of me, you will remain unmoved. Only when Rano thinks of Nani does she feel bad. When she doesn't think of her mother, there is no feeling. Yet another meditation class has opened in Pune called the Mother's Lodge. These meditation classes do not impart love. Meditation creates peace, not love. Thinking brings about love when done continually and deeply. In meditation, you try to stop thinking. The stoppage gives peace. But to love, you must think of the beloved. If your mind becomes still, your beloved does not exist anymore. Then how can there be love where there is no beloved? This is a very important point, this differentiation. When you meditate, you try to forget everything, even yourself. In loving, you forget everything and self, but you remember the beloved. In real and perfect meditation, which is rare, you forget your body, yourself, and everything else. In loving, you also forget self, body, and everything, but you remember the beloved. In meditation, the beloved does not exist. That is why it is said that in meditation, the most you can get is samadhi, forgetting everything and deriving peace, but never God realization. It is only attained by love. Baba asked, have any of you read about the Saint Aurobindo? Baba spoke again about Aurobindo's spiritual advancement through his meditation. Changing the subject to the present war, Baba commented concerning India's current political situation. The Congress was first started in 1885 by Dadabhai Naoroji. Then Gandhi became the leader for the past 20 years. Those mad Chauri Chaura riots broke out 9 years ago. Chauri Chaura is a town in Uttar Pradesh. In 1922, clashes there between British police and protesters resulted in the death of 26 persons. As a result, Gandhi and the Congress Party gave up the civil resistance movement for some time. Gandhi feels that if you are slapped on one cheek, offer the other. He thinks that will put an end to wars. But that is nonviolence and nonsense. But that is nonviolence and nonsense. Mahasabha, a Hindu reactionary political group, says you should follow the Gita and act as Krishna declared, to defend but without hatred. Now, that is not practical because the German hate is so profound that the reaction on all the defenders must be of hate. Krishna's teaching, advocated by the by the Mahasabha, and Christ's teaching, advocated by Gandhi, are both impractical for this war. What did the small nations do? What did the small nations do? They did not resist and were swallowed up. And now they hate more than those who resisted. So now will come a new third way for world peace. First World War, then world peace. India fears air raids and Kolkata office hours are shortened. The Bombay government thinks of shifting to Pune. If Egypt falls, India is sure to be bombed. Therefore, we should go to one of the ports to stay, Ceylon or Ratnagiri, which is 50 miles from Sakarpa and one of the most beautiful parts of India, with beautiful mountains and beaches. It is bigger than Karwar. We will go to one of these ports. I would like you all to be bombed. In response to one woman's remark about the war, Baba asked, "What is bad about it? The war is teaching people to be brave, to be able to suffer, to sacrifice. If a bomb falls here, in 2 seconds, Bagu, a woman servant, would be in iron gown." The women laughed. But she says she would not be afraid if she is with me. Baba then narrated this humorous incident about Muhammad Must. The day before yesterday, Muhammad wept and said, "Dada, I never expected you to lie to me. You told me my wife is coming, and where is she?" And here he wept, not because his wife did not come, but because I lied to him. Then we arranged for an old woman to come with a child in her arms and a bandage over her eyes, and we taught her to say to him, "I will come when I am well, as now you can see I'm ill." She was taken to Muhammad, and on seeing her, he said, "Oh, you have grown old." And she played her part well. So Muhammad is happy because I kept my word. He advised her to put surma, that's eyeliner, which has cleansing properties, in her eyes, and then forgot about her completely. There and then he bent down to gather stones. Now he is satisfied I did not lie to him. He is just like a child. Unless you become like a child, you cannot enter the path. Sitting under the tin shed after they had played some games that day, the 22nd, Baba called for paper and pencil and drew three faces, which he stated represented Hitler, Mussolini, and Neville Chamberlain. Mani was interpreting Baba's board, and the sketch below is how she drew the diagram. Baba drew on paper, which was not preserved. Here, pointing to the gross sphere, they fight, stated Baba. Here, pointing to the Vijnan Bhuvan, the infinite, the infinity of reality, they are one. But, but whatever happens, happens according to God's will. If you have this firmly embedded in your mind, then you will understand that this war business is nothing but God's game. For 3 days, from 27 September 1940 through the 29th, Baba ordered the women to keep silence from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. There was to be complete silence for these 4 hours, and even servants were given this order for 3 days. After this, from the 30th, Baba stated he would have a warning bell rung 5 minutes before he would be starting his work, and for half an hour, all were to remain absolutely silent. He encouraged them that it would be best if they meditated and did not even move their limbs during this time. During Baba's seclusion, he had instructed the women to send the puppy warrior to him for a certain period, and Baba himself fed the pup in the must ashram. After this, Warrior was not well, and Elizabeth, who was looking after him, took him to the veterinarian for medicine and treatment. But Warrior did not recover, and at 10 a.m. on Saturday, 28 September 1940, died on Mehrabad Hill. Should we have a new reader, Marvin?
Yes, thanks, Eugene. Rosalie, please pick it up.
Baba came to see the women and led them to a spot near Nani's grave, where he stated warriors should be buried. When the pit was dug, Baba helped with the burial. Elizabeth was feeling sad, and in the evening, Baba sent her a message. Be happy, warrior has come to me. But no one knew how special Warrior really was until Baba explained it to them the next day. Elizabeth, listen carefully, and you will be proud of Warrior's share in my work. What I am telling you is the truth, and I am not saying it just to please you. As a matter of fact, avatars, sadgurus, and masters never reveal their way of working. If they do so, it entails more work for them. The Sufis say, one who has found the truth hides it eternally. And it is absolutely so. This means that one who is God realized never reveals the truth in ordinary words. God's work is hidden work, the same as the perfect master's secret work. But today I will give you an inkling of how their work is done from the case of Warrior. First, you all must understand that just as there are 7 planes of consciousness, 7 spiritual states, so also are there 7 states of understanding. It is always 7. The number 7 is the divine number. The 7 understandings are 1, instinct, 2, intellect, 3, inspiration, 4, intuition, 5, insight, 6, illumination, 7, realization. Instinct governs the animal world. Intellect, humans. Inspiration for those humans whose feelings are developed, like poets and artists. Intuition is for those advanced souls who have conscious visions and understanding true to the point. What you understand by intuition is always true. What you understand by intellect is sometimes true and sometimes not. Souls on the 4th and 5th planes have insight. Their understanding is direct. without thinking with the mind. Illumination means seeing God as he is. The understanding is divine. Realization is understanding oneself as God. During the process of evolution of forms and consciousness, there are 7 turns until the human form develops. Now, every turn has a direct connection with God. We will not now mention the other 6 turnings. For instance, in the vegetable kingdom, Tulsi, the holy basil plant, is on the turning. In the animal kingdom, a dog is on the turning, as it has intuition and also partial insight without being able to use it consciously. Saints of the 5th and 6th planes have insight and they use it, but the dog cannot use it. The dog only sees things that ordinary human beings cannot. The dog's company purifies thoughts and atmosphere. That is why Zoroastrians have the custom of bringing a dog to see the corpse when someone is dead before disposal of the body. The dog purifies the sanskaras. Dogs play an important part when used consciously by the master. In my seclusion of about 10 days, I wanted a dog for some work of my own. I won't tell you what. I could not use Chum nor any of the other pets. The dog I wanted had to be fresh, new, innocent, and young. So, before seclusion, it all came about that Khorshid happened to mention an Alsatian puppy, and eventually we got Warrior. A footnote. Since Warrior came from Akbar Press, this Khorshid is most likely Khorshid Damania, Erich's first cousin and later wife, who lived at Akbar Press, not small Khorshid. I said, he is my dog. I did not say so about Jingo and Bingo or the other pets. Warrior, you all understood, was Baba's dog. Warrior was not actually a dog, but was temporarily brought down from the spirit world to do this work. I needed a dog for that kind of work. I won't go too deeply into the matter. So Warrior came, and I kept on telling Elizabeth that he was to be near me. But I also knew that it would be difficult, as things would crop up that would create obstacles. So for the first few days, Warrior suffered from worms, germs, etc. Eventually, I had him for the time I wanted him. I knew he would die, just as I know that before July 1st, 1941, Chum too will die. So after I worked with him, I fed him with my own hands and gave him water to drink. When my work was over, I sent him back. Soon after, he got ill, and I discussed with Soltun's sister, meaning Baidul, since no man's name would be mentioned in front of MEHER, where to bury him when he died. We finally selected that spot. When Warrior got very ill, and I saw that if he died within 3 days, he would again have to take another birth, which would not have been safe for him. I saw to it that he did not pass away. So when in those 3 days he did not die, I was happy. Now, no more birth for him. When masters touch the dead bodies of animals, the animals get human forms in their next lives. Those animals who are in contact with masters get forms of spiritual souls in the next birth. But for Warrior, no more births. Had he died within 3 days, it would have been different. I remember how he came to my Gadi the last time I saw him. I patted him. I knew he would die. He played a part in my work, which none of you can ever grasp. He shared my work, and now he is free. Even Chum will not be so lucky. He will die before July 1941 and will be buried next to Warrior. Footnote: Chum's exact date of death is not known, but he was buried on Mehrabad Hill next to Warrior's grave. According to Katie, Chum most likely died of old age, perhaps around 1943. And Baba was present at his burial. Now, no more birth for him. No, wait a minute. Sorry. That's not in my power. But he will come back as a yogi. Kippy will also be a yogi in her next birth. I will not go deeply into details, or you would have understood more clearly. But I have given you some idea of my working. Warrior, who kept me company in seclusion, died. I am happy. He died in time and not before. Even I could not have stopped that. The work was of such a kind that had I stopped it, the whole thing would have been in a mess. He was a real warrior. He played an actual part in my work. How God works. He just takes a spirit from the spirit world, gives it form, works with it, and when it is over, takes it away. Ram's Hanuman, Baba's warrior. Elizabeth, you are not God realized. You naturally feel sad about Warrior's death. But knowing what I explained to you, you must be happy. At the end of September 1940, Meher Baba began making plans to leave Mehrabad for some other place where he could continue to work in seclusion. At the beginning of October, Kaka and Chanji were sent to Ceylon to find a place to stay. Footnote: Chanji was staying in Bombay, where Baba had instructed him to keep everyone's passports ready. But he had recently been traveling back and forth to Meherabad for instructions. A wealthy Parsi businessman named Rustamji Ratan Shah Bilamoria knew of Baba and helped Kaka and Chanji look for a suitable residence for Baba and the women. Baba had specified that he wished to stay in a villa on the beach. But as none was available, Rustamji put his own bungalow in Vayangoda, 25 miles outside of Colombo, at Baba's disposal. Chanji and Kaka sent a telegram to Baba, and he agreed. Baba now began making plans to depart the 1st of November and discuss the upcoming journey with the women.
All right, thank you, Rosalie. Eva, would you like to pick up the reading?
Sure. Baba fasted on Monday, 7 October 1940. That evening, from 7 to 11:30 p.m., he began suffering terribly. It was hell, he later remarked. I had the most terrible time of my present life during that 4.5 hours. Baba was to break the fast at midnight, but fell asleep at 11:30 p.m. and woke up at 3:30 a.m. He had milk then. Later that day, the Mandali heard the news that German troops had entered Romania on the same day, 7 October. Baba had an article prepared on the war from his statements, which he intended to have sent to his lovers or published. On the 11th, he came to the women's quarters and had it read aloud. All thought it was wonderful, but one of them commented that science should not have been mentioned in it, whereupon Baba explained, science must come in to the article, as it plays a great part in the present war. Science can be put to good use, and science can be put to bad use. Chloroform can be used for operations, for healing, but robbers also use it on their victims to steal things. In war, science is used for destruction, but destruction ultimately means renewal and improvement. What happened when they burned London during the Great Black Plague? They rebuilt it later, and it is always better than before. So when the world is destroyed, a new and better world must spring up from the ashes. There will be chaos and destruction all over the universe. But after that, there will be no war for 800 years. So, isn't all this present misery worth that long period of happiness? And those who die in this war will be reborn to enjoy the new world in peace. Now they want power and possessions and hate each other. How can it all end? In only one way. They must get sick of it all, sick of wanting, sick of hating, sick of fighting. Suppose you like milk and you drink and drink it so excessively that eventually you get sick of it. Then what do? You stop taking milk. In the same way, hate, greed, anger, and so forth will reach such a height that everyone will be simply sick of it all. And then what will the alternative be? To stop hating and to love, to stop wanting and to give, to stop fighting and be at peace. The world of the future will be very nice, but it is all zero, someone spoke out. Baba nodded, yes, but this is a supreme understanding. Even the present is all zero, and therefore the future of zero can be nothing but zero. It is all zero. Nothing exists but God. One day, my nearest disciples will realize it. Now, the most you can do is think, yes, nothing exists. All is zero. But when you realize it, you will feel it. During the period of his seclusion in Meherabad, Baba had given the women a chant to sing every day, and also this 4-line song, to Nirakar, you are formless. You are formless, Pravartiga, Ahura Mazda, Allah, who? You are Yezdan, you are God, Ahura Mazda, Allah, who? You are Paramatma, Parabrahma. You are Almighty God, Ishwar. You are Parameshwar, Izad, Ahura Mazda, Allah, who? Explaining it on the 11th, Baba stated, Izad means the one who is the first, God, the omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. There are millions of names of God, but those that have a sound effect are few. Every sound you make, every thought you think, good or bad, stays. But that sound, which results in feeling, has force behind it, which helps or hurts others. All this noise of guns, bombs, and airplanes, etc., of war, will be utilized for the spiritual life of the world in the future. Yes, it all stays. It cannot go. Where can it go? It is like water which evaporates, forms into clouds, and then comes down again as rain. But you all must sing the song of God's names together with rhythm and timing to produce an effect. When the name of God is sung with feeling and rhythm, it even has the effect of temporarily bringing down the majzoobs from their superconscious state. Abdul Baba of Bombay is a known majzoob. He was always unconscious, did not eat or drink anything, simply lay unconscious. But when one singer would come to his door every day singing Allahu, Allahu in rhythm, within half an hour, Abdul Baba would come down to consciousness, begin to look about, talk, eat, and then again merge into his former state. Baba began seeing the women more often in October. On Sunday, 13 October 1940, he explained some more points about samskars after his second typed article had been read out. Samskars must balance perfectly. This cannot be done by a mathematical process, or it would be easy. Good and bad samskars are both bindings. If you have good samskars, you may take birth as a great rich man. With bad samskars, you may be born as a miserable leper, and so on. But you cannot get freedom without a master. You do not know how many bad samskars you have and how many good ones you need. But the perfect master knows, and he will work with you to balance them. Once, when Buddha was not yet realized, unveiled, God conscious, after he had renounced his kingdom, wife, and child, and had gone into the forest, where he remained doing penance and fasting, he encountered an old woman who was advanced on the path. She told him that he was bound more than ever before. Before, they were fetters of iron. Now they were of gold, but both were binding all the same. Then she told him the secret. Footnote. On another occasion, Baba explained that an old woman unveiled Buddha by giving him pudding to eat after his many months of fasting. The woman was a perfect master who played the same role as Babajan did for Mirawan. Good and bad are mere terms. Hitler sincerely thinks he is doing good, and the world thinks he is doing bad. What is good for him is bad for the world. Good and bad are just man-made expressions. Real freedom can only be obtained when you give up all desires. You have to renounce them all to attain freedom. Nadine was observing silence according to Baba's instructions and now communicating through hand signs. When mentioning some recent quarrel between her and Norina, Baba commented, "You must observe silence, not only of the tongue, but of desires, of hatred, of bitterness, of greed, etc. too." Returning to the subject of sanskaras, Baba recounted to the women this true story. There was a man who was a great murderer. In his life, he murdered 99 people. One day he felt very depressed and sick of it all. So he went to a perfect master and frankly and openly confessed before him all his crimes, adding that he was feeling most dejected and wanted to end it all. The master told him to go sit by the side of a certain road and think of him. The murderer did so. One day, while he was sitting there thinking of the master, a rider came by, stopped before him, and told him to move aside. The man refused, and the rider started lashing him with his whip. Reverting back to his old ways, the man pulled the rider from his horse, stabbed and killed him. And at that very moment, the man realized God. You see, the rider was carrying on his person a message from one king to another, ordering the death of 100 spies. By saving the exact number of lives that he had murdered, his good and bad sanskars balanced. The man, of course, did not know all this and was only thus saved by the perfect master, because the master knew. Therefore, if you obey implicitly and unquestioningly, you win, because whereas your conception is limited, the master knows all and gives you just what is best for you. Baba then mentioned the recent sickness of all, about food and the importance of keeping lizards out of it. He asked, "Are there no such lizards in the West?" The Western women replied, "No." Baba joked with a twinkle in his eye, "Then I will speak in the West, because there are no lizards there." Baba ordered the Mandali to give a feast to the Arangan villagers on Sunday, 13 October, and Monday, 14 October, in memory of Dola Masi and Nani Gailey, respectively. At 5 p.m. on the 13th, women and children from the village came up the hill, and Sunamasi and Kakubai distributed sweets to them. It began to rain, and Baba remarked, "This will make the villagers even happier. They need rain more than sweets." So Dalamasi gave them rain. Baba watched Sunamasi and Kakubai distributing the prasad. Again, the next evening at 6 p.m., showers came just as Rano, Kakubai, and others were distributing sweets. As Baba was still in seclusion, he did not give his darshan to the villagers at the feast, for which the Mandali had made all the arrangements. Baba called all the women to him at 3 o'clock on the afternoon of 17 October, 1940. He would usually spend some time with Mehera, Mani, Naja, Khorshed, and the other Eastern women alone in their bedroom, the East Room of the Meher retreat, and then call in the Western ladies. That day, Baba remarked about Muhammad Must. "Great news today," Muhammad said. "I don't want my wife. She is always sick. There is always something wrong with her. Give me a peacock instead. I am your peacock. Where's mine?" And then he starts making the sound of a peacock. In reference to the vaccination they had taken the day before in order to proceed to Ceylon, Baba recalled a story about Baidul.
Okay, thanks, Eva.
Welcome.
Marilyn, would you like to read? Or, all right, you know what? Let me pick it up from here. Hi, Mona. As
I mean,
mentioned,
I can read if that's okay.
yeah, you could go ahead.
As mentioned, the women were forbidden to mention the name of any man in front of Mehra, and so even Baba would spell out Sultan's sister when referring to Baido. When reading the newspapers to Baba in front of Mehra, Rano would say Mrs. Hitler, Mrs. Mussolini, Mrs. Churchill, Mrs. Gandhi, and so forth. This was the extent to which Mehra was kept secluded. As age noted, only the pure could stay in such a strict seclusion. It was only possible for Mehra to live such a life because she was living not for herself but for her beloved. Such a life is a true life where love and faith in the beloved are always active and ever present. The story Baba narrated about Baitul was Sultan's sister was a doctor of his village in Persia. He would boil garlic in oil and put in a few drops of the mixture in the patient's ears. Taking my name, it cured all sorts of diseases. Thus, he made some patients well, and his fame spread so much that he even gave a dying cow some drops of the tonic, extending her life too. Footnote, please. This was Baidul's remedy for nearly all physical ailments. Thank you. But the fact is that the patients did not get well by his remedy, but by his full and supreme faith in me. Every evening he sits with me and I tell him to talk, and he tells me of Persia and other facts and stories. He says, "Baba, only you made them well." He never took money from any of his patients either. It is Sultan's sister's firm faith in my name curing the patients that made the tonic work. Had he the slightest doubt, the faintest speck of wavering about it, it would not have worked, and no one would have recovered. Later in the evening, Baba remarked that he had not rested for even 5 minutes the previous night. He then discussed the present world situation. How do you know God does not work through these different leaders? Gandhi is weak but honest. Hitler is strong but dishonest. God works through both. Who leads them? Only God. The one who leads them knows, but they don't, they just go on. Gandhi's out of tune. He's groping in darkness, but he is honest. Churchill is the right man for his place. The congressmen will put the congressmen will be put in jail as they are embarrassing the government. Although they say they don't embarrass, they do. Gandhi too will be jailed. India is in such a mess. If things get out of control, there will be a civil war and Gandhi will die of shock for having caused it all. Only one thing is true and matters: love. All this mess, just a mess.
Mona, Mona,
About the war,
Mona,
Baba
you
remarked
start
to
to
the
break
men.
up too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me take over here. We can't hear you too good. Only one thing is true and matters: love. All this mess is just a mess. About the war, Baba remarked to the men Mandali. And soon Japan, Burma, Singapore, Iran, and Turkey will all be involved. The crisis in the West is nearing its climax, and the crisis in the East and in India will begin in January 1941 and last until the middle of 1941, at which time it will begin to wane. Mussolini will eventually be killed violently. Hitler will commit suicide, though he is my star villain. Russia is very crafty. She helps everyone, and in the end will pinch or steal everything. Iran, Afghanistan. Both Russia and Japan want India, but won't succeed. India will suffer more than the West. 50% of the population will be wiped out, all starting next year. Britain will be crushed, but won't give in and won't lose. Germany and Italy will be crushed and lose. England would have been wiped out except for Churchill, who is really clever. He has saved England. If old Chamberlain had been prime minister, England would have been finished. Baba came to see the women on the 20th, the 22nd, and 24th of October. Once during his visits, while sitting under the trees in the compound, he explained about the mind. Mind is a good servant, but a bad master. This means if you control it, it will act as you want. The mind is a bad master if it has control over you to go its way. Once the mind's control is firm, you are lost. Mind is a storehouse of low desires and always misleads you. It has the stamp of animal desires on it from billions of years. If you control the mind, desires become inactive. Because the mind also has good desires from human lives, those desires are worked out. Mind is a good servant, but a bad master. At one point, Baba noticed that Irene was not in a good mood, and he asked her, "When you ride a horse, what would you do if it goes out of control?" Irene replied, "There were certain rules to follow in such situations." Baba explained, "If you get nervous or angry, you cannot control the horse. If you have control over your mind, the animal will become quiet. If control is lost, both rider and the horse are lost. A horse is just like the mind. It is good if controlled, but dangerous if it becomes the master. The following change in the order about fasting was mailed to Meher Baba's followers in October 1940. In it said, those who, in accordance with order number 20, now fast on one solid meal and milk tea or coffee twice daily, shall from October 20th, 1940, continue fasting in the following manner. Breakfast between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., solid and liquid foods, including tea and coffee, excepting pure milk. In cases where the above breakfast is unsuitable, it may be replaced by a breakfast consisting solely of pure milk up to 3/4 seer. Afternoon tea, 1 cup, 1/4 seer of tea or coffee containing milk or buttermilk, not pure milk, anytime between breakfast and supper. Water may be taken as many times during the day and night as required. Neither breakfast nor supper may be started before or continued after the time specified above. Baba saw the women every day during the last week of October and discussed the upcoming journey to Ceylon. On one occasion, he teased, when we go down there, keep smiling and look like ripe tomatoes. Otherwise, I will send you back to Meherabad. You will have the fun of your life in Ceylon. Wait and see. Don received his draft notice into the British Army at this time, and Baba sent him to Pune to get permission to go with the group to Ceylon for 2 months, which Baba indicated was necessary for his work. It was granted. Meanwhile, the must, Shariat Khan, was sent back to Chikmagalur on 26 October 1940, after having spent 10 months in the master's contact. Dolly, Adi's sister, had been staying with the women during this period, but on the 27th, Baba sent her back to Bangalore. She was ordered to stay with the Jessawalas rather than with Adi and Franey. Narina and Elizabeth went to Bombay for a day to finalize arrangements and obtain visas with Chanji's help. From the 28th of October, Baba began a new system of fasting for everyone, as previously outlined and mailed. They were to eat between 6 and 8 a.m. and again from 6 to 8 p.m. with a cup of tea in the middle of the day. On the 29th, Baba sent Muhammad Must to Bombay to stay with Alaba, who was working in an Irani restaurant there. Of the Musts, only Chanti Baba remained, whom Baba wished to take to Ceylon. Baba entrained from the Ahmednagar railway station on Friday, 1st November 1940 at 5 p.m. on the Bombay Madras Express with Baidul, Chanji, Don, Nilu, Vishnu, Krishna, Venkobareo, Chati Baba, and the women, 33 in all, plus some of the children. This was the first time Baba took everyone by second class. Usually he traveled third class. Tukaram drove the blue bus to carry all the luggage as well as to transport a few of the women. Because Baba was still in seclusion, he did not say goodbye to the Mandali left in Meherabad, such as Shagan, Homi, Kalamama, Masaji, Murli Kali, Padri, Pendu, Sailor, etc., nor did he meet Savak, Babananda, Papa Jesawala, and Pleader, who were still in the family quarters on silence. Padri and Murli had returned to Meherabad from Bangalore. The only ones still staying in Bangalore now were Adi Sr., Dr. Ghani, Erich, and his family. Baba did not meet anyone en route. He arrived in Dhanushkodi on the 3rd at 5 p.m. They boarded a boat there and were ferried to Talamai Manor at 7:30 p.m. From there, they went by train to Vayangoda, arriving the next day at 5:15 a.m. The traveling was especially difficult this time because Baba did not wish his name disclosed, and consequently, against his wishes, he and the women were made to be present during the customs and medical examinations at Dhanushkodi and Talai Manor while entering Ceylon. From Vayangoda, they proceeded by taxis to the bungalow Higala Estate, where Rustamji Bilamoria which Rustamji Bilamoria had placed at Baba's disposal. Rustamji and his family had come to Vayangoda to receive Baba. With Kaka's help, he had arrived 3 days before with a cook. They left nothing undone in seeing to Baba and the group's comfort. On the morning of 7 November 1940, after breakfast, Baba looked somewhat disappointed. He called everyone and asked, "Why you're staying with me?" Rana replied, "To love you." Elizabeth answered, "Because I love you. I don't know why, but I do." Baba smiled and spelled out on the alphabet board. And let me see what time it is. Okay, we have a few minutes. Somebody else like to read a page who hasn't read? Oh, let me just finish the next page then. But what a way of loving. Yes, you do love me. Otherwise, why should you leave all your families, homes, comforts, etc., to be with me? And it is because I love you that I keep you near me. This year of my working is very important. You are all so lucky to be with me now. The universe is now in such chaos. That is why I gave the list of orders to my disciples. If not, the reaction would have been such that even the closest of my lovers would have left me. But why do you always want to do what you want? You must do what I want. You must either do only what you want or only what I want. But what is this in-between thing to please both yourselves and me? That's impossible. If you love me, you must be happy in my happiness. But I tried to make it easier for you too, for I also let you do what you want. If I asked you to do only what I want, you would not stay with me for a minute. But I tell you not to fight, not to criticize, but you do what you want. So try your best to obey these orders during this important period of my work. For 9 months, you must all stay with me during my important working. To lighten the mood, Baba then described an incident in the town which he found amusing. I accompanied Narina and Elizabeth yesterday in the car when they went for their passport work. Elizabeth forgot to park the car in the shade. I was feeling very hot, sitting in the car waiting for them. An Englishman came up and asked, "Excuse me, are you Sri Meher Baba?" I nodded, and he turned to the 3 Ceylonese standing by and told them, "He is a great person. Go bow to him," which they did. I had never seen him before, but he must have seen my face red from the sun and thought it to be a spiritual glow. It had been raining constantly since their arrival in Ceylon, and all, including Baba, felt depressed. Baba had a bad cold as well. One night, Narina had a bad dream. The next morning, she was irritated and in a bad mood. Baba looked at her sharply and remarked, "She is upset because of a dream." Fool, a dream may be good or bad, but in it, sanskaras are being spent. In the awake state, when sanskaras are spent, new ones are accumulated. And now we'll just finish this part. But when they are spent in a dream, new ones are not created. Okay, I think it's time to stop here. Let's note the page number and we'll end the recording. Okay, did we stop the recording yet? Okay.
It still shows its own.
Very nice. Very interesting.